Thank you for joining me. My name is Lauren, and I will be guiding you through a slow flow yoga practice where we will focus on our hamstrings. So our hamstrings are the group of muscles that run along the backs of the thighs. So we will be strengthening them and stretching them. So moving them in a variety of ways. So just to clarify, someone recently asked, when you are strengthening a muscle, which is what we'll do, and I'll be clear when we're strengthening and when we're stretching, but when we're strengthening a muscle, the muscle gets shorter, it contracts, it builds stress and builds tension in the muscle. So it sort of shortens and gets really tight and tense, and that's when you feel that fatigue of the muscle tightening, and your muscles get tired, but then they therefore get stronger. And when you stretch a muscle, you're doing the opposite. And so that's why we need to be doing both, because they are sort of opposites, and that all can result in a little bit more well-balanced muscle group if things are being both stretched and strengthened. So when we're stretching something, instead of creating tension, we're releasing tension. We're letting the muscle maybe be passive, maybe be relaxed and very effortless, allowing it to lengthen, allowing it to release any of that stress. So again, ideally, with every muscle group, you would be strengthening it and stretching it. So that's what we're going to do today with our hamstrings. Okay, you don't need any props. We are going to start right on our back. Maybe you're going to support your head, put something underneath it. That's your call. But come on down onto your back. Okay, make your way into a relaxed position. Just finding a position where your body can all relax. Everything can release and soften. And as you let your body settle into this relaxing and comfortable position, turn your attention to your breath. Notice your natural breath. Noticing something simple. Maybe just noticing whether you're breathing through your nose or your mouth. Noticing whether your breath makes a sound or if it's silent. Notice if you're breathing into your throat, into your chest, or maybe down into your belly. You always know you're welcome to stay with your natural breath. But I'll walk you through a breathing pattern called the Ujjayi breath. The Ujjayi breath is an inhalation that we'll take through the nose, but then an exhalation that we'll take through the mouth, an open mouth exhalation. It's the same idea as if you were whispering, that contraction in the back of the throat that you make when you whisper, you do it for the Ujjayi breath as well. A good visualization is to imagine that there's a mirror right in front of your face and you're trying to fog up the mirror. So again, we'll breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you take that exhalation, imagine that if there were other people in the room with you, they would be able to hear your exhalation. It's an audible breath out. Okay, so we'll move through a few rounds of the Ujjayi breath here. So breathe in through your nose, exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, and continue at your own pace. Now, as you continue with the Ujjayi breath on your own, continue to lengthen the exhalations. Sometimes with the Ujjayi breath, we are so forceful with the exhalation that it's really short and quick. Can you lengthen the exhalation? Can you make each exhalation a little longer than the one before it? So lengthen that Ujjayi breath. Let's stay for a few more rounds. Do about 1 or 2 more at your own pace. And then slowly return back to your natural breath, releasing the Ujjayi breath. Notice how you feel after a few rounds of the Ujjayi breath. Maybe there's no change in your body, in your energy, in your being, but maybe there is. So just pause to notice. Now keeping your energy, your attention, your awareness inward and present. If it feels right for you, maybe you take the next few moments to set an intention for your practice. Silently and slowly repeat a positive word or phrase to allow it to settle in your heart. And then slowly start to deepen your breath. Take big, full breaths. And then create some soft movement throughout your body. Maybe rock your head side to side, wiggle fingers and toes, move arms and legs, and take a few moments to move in any way that feels good. Maybe rock the knees, maybe take a full body stretch, maybe hug the knees into the chest. Whatever feels best for just a few more breaths, a few more moments. So regardless of whether we will be stretching or strengthening hamstrings or another muscle, always remember that what we do should be comfortable. Even when we are strengthening and you're putting forth a lot of effort, it still is comfortable. It still is somewhere where you can breathe in a fluid way. You're not wincing or making a face. So always remember that even strength training, even off of your yoga mat, outside of a traditional yoga class, strength training should not be painful. So something to keep in mind. Okay, so we're gonna just stay here on our back. Bring the knees to bend, feet flat on the ground, feet and knees about hip distance apart. Let your shoulders relax, upper back relax. Stay for a breath. Okay, take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, hug your right thigh in towards your belly, holding onto the back of your thigh as opposed to the top of your shin. Now you play with where you want your thigh to be. You might draw your thigh a little bit farther away from your belly, kind of straightening the arms and letting the thigh come again away from the belly, away from the face. Or you might bend the elbows and really hug that thigh into the belly. Your call, whatever feels best on not only your hamstrings, but also your lower back. Okay, but wherever you have your thigh, I want you to keep it there. And then inhale, reach your right foot up towards the ceiling, lengthen the right leg. Exhale, bend the right knee, let the heel drop towards the back of the thigh. Move with your breath. Inhale as you lengthen the leg, foot to the sky. Exhale, bend at the knee, heel drops towards the back of the thigh. Keep moving with your breath. Now here we're just starting to warm up the hamstrings. Feel that as you reach your foot up towards the sky, maybe you're pointing your foot, maybe you're flexing your foot, maybe your foot is relaxed, but what we're going for is length through the back of the right leg, especially the hamstrings. And again, the hamstrings run through the back of the thigh from about the knee to about the sit bone. So, feeling it in any space within that. So for me, on certain days I feel it sort of in the meaty part of my thigh, but today I'm feeling it more in the back of my knee. And so that doesn't mean that one is better or one is right or one is wrong, just my body feels a little different from the last time I did this, and that's okay. But feeling it anywhere in the back of the leg, that's what we're going for. Let's do just a few more. Now keep relaxing your shoulders, keep relaxing your upper back. Soften through your hands, your wrists, your forearms. Let's do about 2 more. And the next time you bend your knee, keep hugging your thigh into your belly. But we're gonna move through the foot. So point and flex your right foot. Point and flex, point and flex. Notice that you feel this more in your calf and your shin, more by the ankle, less by the thigh. Do one more point, one more flex, and then do some circles. Pick one direction and do some ankle circles. Stay with it for a few rotations. And then reverse that direction. Try to make really large circles. Moving at the ankle, 1 or 2 more. And then bring the ankle to stillness, heel to stillness, but spread your toes away from each other. Like you're really reaching the toes away, and then crunch them in like you're making a fist with your foot. Spread your toes out wide away from each other, create space between them, and then crunch them in tight. And do that a few more, reach them out wide and far, crunch them in tight and narrow, 1 more of each. Okay, and then you can relax your foot and release your hands from your thigh. Let the right foot come all the way back down. Just notice for a moment how the 2 sides of the body feel a little different. Take a breath. Okay, and then inhale. Exhale, hug the left thigh in towards your belly. Holding onto the back of the thigh, maybe interlace the fingers the other way. Okay, and then relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the arms. Maybe the thigh is hugged in tight. Maybe it's a little bit farther away. Listen to, again, your hamstrings and your lower back. And then you're going to keep your thigh where it is. Once you've chosen where you want it, it's going to stay there. And inhale, lengthen the leg. Exhale, bend the knee. Inhale, lengthen the leg, reach the foot for the sky. Exhale, bend the knee, let the heel drop towards the back of the thigh. Now keep moving at your own pace, at your own breath. Now when I say that your thigh stays still, if you have chosen a spot for your thigh and you think, oh wait, I don't really like that, you can move it. I'm not saying you don't have any more options once we begin, but I want your thigh to stay still throughout this action. The more your thigh moves, the less your hamstring warms up. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but the more your thigh moves here, the less your hamstring is warming up, because we just want to warm up at the knee joint. We're just moving one joint at a time. If we were to move both ends of the hamstring at the knee and at the hip, most likely no stretch would be happening because both parts are moving. And so we want to just focus on one end. I think of it, if you're familiar with resistance bands, if you've ever done physical therapy and they give you sort of that band, right? So you have to anchor one side of the band, right? And then you pull back on the other end. If the whole thing just moves, you're not actually creating any tension. Or thinking about a rubber band. If you move both ends of a rubber band right and left, it's not actually getting any more tense. It's not actually lengthening, right? You have to anchor one side and then pull on the other. Or we're not really pulling, but you see what I'm saying. Okay, let's do about 2 more like this. Okay, and then the next time you bend your left knee, let the knee stay bent. Relax your hands, relax your arms. We're going to focus on the foot. Point and flex your foot. Point and flex. Point and flex. Notice that feeling through the ankle, the calf, the shin, the lower part of the leg now instead of the upper. And then do some ankle circles. Pick one direction, stay with it for a few rotations. Try to make large circles, large rotations. And then when you're ready, reverse. Again, large circles. 1 or 2 more. And then bring your heel to stillness, ankle to stillness, spread the toes out wide, reach them away from each other, crunch them in tight like you're making a fist with your foot. Reach your toes away, out wide, and then crunch them in tight and narrow. A few more, feel this through the foot. And this is good in the winter months, especially as we're wearing a lot of boots and restrictive footwear. Okay, and then you can relax your foot, release your hands from your thigh, let your left foot come back down onto the ground. Again, just pause, take a breath or two, notice how you feel. Okay. All right, so if you had something under your head, I would suggest removing it. There's very few poses where when we're laying on our back, it's inappropriate to have something under the back of your head, and this is really one of them. So we're going to do some moving bridges. This is where our hamstrings are going to start to work. Just now we were lengthening, stretching, and allowing them to release and relax and grow long. Now they're going to shorten, tighten, and maybe feel a little tense and fatigued, and that's okay. Again, we need the balance. So arms alongside your body with your palms facing down, knees bent, feet flat. Feet look like the number 11, all 10 toes pointing forward. Okay. Now, start with just a few pelvic tilts. So let your seat stay on the ground, but as you inhale, lift your ribs, lift your lower back. So you're arching your back. Seat is down, shoulders are down, but mid-back is lifted. Exhale as you push the lower back and mid-back and ribs down into the ground, pushing into the mat. Inhale, lift, arch the back, point your belly button towards your thighs. Exhale, push down, point your belly button towards your face. Do maybe 2 or 3 more of each, just like this. Inhale as you lift and arch the back. Exhale as you push down into the back, engaging your core. Again, just 1 or 2 more. Here I want you to relax your legs. Relax your shoulders. I want you to focus just on warming up your spine and your pelvis. So then we're ready for the bridge. Okay. All right. So now let your spine come to neutral. So I'm neither lifting nor lowering. This is neutral. Okay, we're gonna do 1 more pelvic tilt and then we'll go right into the moving bridges. So inhale, arch the back again, lift the spine, arch the back. Exhale, push the ribs down into the ground. Now, inhale, push your feet into the ground, lift your seat, lift your lower back, lift your mid back, reach your hips up for the sky, squeeze your glutes, contract the backside of the body. Feel it tighten, engage, and work. And then exhale, slowly drop the mid back, the lower back, belly button points towards your face as you drop the low back and your seat. All right, push the feet down. Inhale as you lift your seat, your sacrum, your low back, your mid back as you lift your hips. Squeeze your glutes, contract your hamstrings, push your heels into the ground, but freedom to wiggle the toes. Exhale as you slowly lower, point your belly button towards your face as you slowly and thoughtfully lower all the way down. We're going to do a few more moving bridges just like this. Inhale as you lift, reach, rise up towards the sky and contract at the top. Exhale as you slowly, thoughtfully, mindfully release. This is not a race by any means. This is meant to be slow and controlled. We're going to do a few more. So as you're here, make sure that your knees continue to stay hip distance apart. When we set up with feet and knees hip distance apart, but oftentimes the knees want to splay out wide, closer to mat distance. That is tight IT bands for especially my runners or cyclists or walkers. Tight IT bands will make the knees want to go out wide. So contract a little bit through the inner thighs to balance, so that knees are staying right over ankles, shins are vertical lines, also looking like the number 11. Okay, let's do about 2 more like this. Make sure when you're at the top, you're squeezing your glutes, contracting the back side. Belly button pointing towards the face for as much as you can as you lift and as you lower. Let's do about 1 more. Feeling the work in the back side, the lower back, the glutes, the hamstrings, the whole back side working here. Good, and then once your seat comes down onto the ground, sacrum comes down, let your feet come to mat distance apart. taking them a little bit wider, let the knees knock in, and just rest here in constructive resting pose for a few moments, letting all those spaces that we're just working, let them relax now. Again, we need that balance, right? So sometimes we'll be strengthening, sometimes we'll be stretching, sometimes we're working, sometimes we're relaxing, but we really do need that balance. And again, not just with hamstrings, with all muscles, but we are focusing on hamstrings. Take a deep breath. All right. Take a deep breath in. Then as you breathe out, hug your knees into your chest. Maybe it feels comfortable to rock side to side, or maybe you just stay still. Stay for just one more moment. And we're gonna make our way up into tabletop. We're gonna come right into tabletop. So maybe you rock through to the center, maybe you roll over to the side, push yourself up. But we're gonna be in tabletop and we're gonna be here for a little bit. So if you want a pad under your wrists or under your knees or both or neither, do what you need to do. We're gonna be in tabletop for a little bit. All right, so we're gonna start in tabletop, hands under shoulders, spread the fingers wide, knees under hips. We're just gonna start with a few cat and cows, warm up the spine a little bit more. So as you inhale, drop your belly down towards the mat, but lift your chest, lift your heart, look forward towards the wall in front of you. Exhale, round the spine. Draw the ribs up towards the sky, chin to the chest, look towards your belly button. Inhale as you drop the belly, point the belly button towards the thighs, drop the ribs, lift the chest, lift the heart, look forward. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, ribs to the sky, chin to the chest, look at your belly button. Do maybe just 2 or 3 more of each, just like this. Able to move your spine through a fuller range of motion when we're in cat and cow as opposed to the pelvic tilt, so take advantage of it. Notice that you can really get your upper back in this motion. Maybe you feel something in your rhomboids. Okay. All right, and then when you're ready, we're gonna come back into a traditional tabletop, spine neutral. Okay. All right, now we're gonna lengthen the right leg back, letting the bottom of the toes and the ball mound of the foot rest on the ground, so it's like the right side of your body is in a plank. So right leg is long, right toes are resting on the ground. Now you might just stay here with the toes hooked under, reaching the heel back, reaching the crown of the head forward. Make sure that the ribs aren't dropping down, that your spine is in neutral. Or maybe you sort of pulse forward and back, do a little forward and back action. Maybe you take some circles. Maybe you move that foot, that right leg, as if you're dropping your heel over to the left, sort of rolling towards the big toe side of the foot. And then imagine it sort of tracing a rainbow, letting the heel point back up towards the sky, and then maybe coming down over to the right, rolling to the pinky toe side of the foot. Just really exploring the back side of your right leg. So opening it up. Again, taking any movement that feels good. That might be circles. That might just mean, again, staying still and static. That's fine too. But stay for about 2 more breaths wherever you'd like to be, opening through the back of that right leg. Okay, all right. Now, roll towards the inside of your right foot. So the inside edge of the foot, the arch of the foot, the big toe side of the foot is resting flat on the ground. Your right toes are pointing to your right. Now, we want your left hand, left knee, and right foot on one line as if you're on a tightrope. So check that out. Drop your head and look left hand, left knee, right foot in one long line. Okay, now keeping your left knee where it's at. Pivot your left shin over to the left. Placing the top of the foot down on the ground, left toes will sort of point over to the left, or sort of the back left corner of your mat. Push the top of the left foot down into the ground and inhale as you reach your right fingertips up towards the sky. So you're sort of in this modified side plank sort of thing, right? It's not quite a modified side plank because this left thigh is fairly vertical. If it were more at a diagonal, if it were at a deeper slant, it would be more of a modified side plank. But this should feel pretty stable. You shouldn't feel like your obliques and your abs are working too hard to be here, because that's not the intention. What we're going to do is focus on this right leg. So find something to look at, something that won't move. Keep your eyes on a fixed spot. Really keep that left hand pushing down, spread the left fingers, lift up and out of the left shoulder. And then check in with your ribs. Make sure that your ribs aren't poking forward. We want your spine still in neutral, even though you're sort of just on that left side. And then slowly lift that right leg up off the ground. Now it might just hover an inch over the ground. You might lift it up to the height of the hip, your call. That's really more about your range of motion and your flexibility within your hip and less about strength. So that's fine. But we are focusing on strength here. Can you feel that right leg working? You might not necessarily feel it in your hamstrings in the backs of the thigh, which is what we're focusing on. You might feel it more in the outside of the thigh, maybe in the glute med. That's all right, that's okay. So we're gonna keep lifting that right leg up, softly flex the foot, push the heel back, crown of the head forward. Continue to lengthen your body. Continue to check in that your spine is in neutral. You're not poking the ribs forward, you're not shrugging in the shoulder. Everything is exactly where it needs to be. Let's take one more breath here. Inhale, exhale, slowly let the right foot return down, right hand return down, come down to tabletop, give yourself a few moments. Maybe roll out the wrists. Again, we're here on the wrists a little bit today. Maybe let the hips sway, whatever you need. Okay, now we're gonna come to the second side. I'm gonna turn around so I'm still facing you, but you can stay right where you're at. Okay. So setting up in tabletop, we're first gonna start by just lengthening that left leg. So we're gonna lengthen the left leg, letting the toes rest on the ground like the left side of your body is in plank. So we're not working too hard here, we're just opening up the back of that leg. So that might mean staying still and focusing on reaching the heel back, crown of the head forward, and just really lengthening. You might sort of rock forward and back, take some sort of swaying motion with it. And you might just stay forward and back. You might sort of rotate around, do some circles, get the hips in there. Now, like earlier, as I said, when you were laying on your back, and I said if your thigh is moving, your hamstring is stretching less, which feels counterintuitive. And that's the same sort of thing here. If you're allowing your hips and everything to sort of move a little bit more, you're taking a little bit away from the hamstring, but that's okay here because we're gonna get them later, don't you worry. Okay. And again, here, as we're just sort of moving around, you might drop your heel over maybe to the left, like you're rolling towards the pinky toe side of the foot, and then maybe sort of pulse it around like it's tracing a rainbow, heel coming back up, and then maybe dropping to the inside edge of the foot towards the big toe side, or just sort of, again, noticing the back of the left leg. What's it doing? How's it feel? What's happening? One more moment here. All right, okay. Now we are going to place the inside edge of the left foot down onto the ground. So the big toe side of the foot resting down. Now we want your right hand, right knee, left foot in one line like they're on a tightrope. Right hand, right knee, left foot like they're on a tightrope. So kind of check that out. And keeping your right knee where it's at, you're gonna pivot your right shin over to the right, like your right toes are now pointing sort of over to the right, or towards the back right corner of your mat, top of the foot down onto the ground. Really push the top of the right foot down. Inhale as you reach left fingertips up towards the sky. Now again, we're sort of in this sort of modified side plank. Again, this right thigh is a little too vertical for it to be really asking much of our obliques and of our abs. But spread your right fingers, push that right hand down, lift up and out of the right shoulder. Make sure that the ribs aren't poking forward. Draw the ribs in, your spine is in neutral. Crown of the head forward, left heel back. Now maybe fingertips reach up, maybe hand just stays at the hip. That's an option too. But look at something that won't move. And as you keep all of these things in alignment, allow that left foot to float up off the ground. It might just hover an inch or two off the ground, that's all right. It might lift up a little bit higher. Again, that's more about flexibility, which is why we are going to be stretching throughout the practice as well, but more about flexibility, less about strength. I'm not concerned with that here. All right, push that right hand down, lift up and out of the right shoulder, draw the ribs in, make sure spine is in neutral, crown of the head forward, left heel back. Flex the foot, so your ankle is making a right angle. Let's take One more deep breath here. Feeling that work through the glute med, outer thigh. Inhale. Exhale, let the left foot come down, left hand come down, left knee, come to tabletop. Take a moment, roll out the wrists. Take a child's pose, sway the hips, whatever you need. Okay. All right. So we're going to start to get moving in just a moment. So I'm going to move my blocks to the top two corners of my mat. If you've got some, I would suggest doing the same. If you don't have some, that's all right. All right. Now from tabletop, we're going to give the wrists a break in just a moment. So from tabletop, walk your hands one whole handprint closer. Hook the toes under. Inhale. Exhale, downward facing dog. Take just one breath here because I know your wrists need a break. Inhale, deeply bend the knees, look forward. Exhale, travel forward. Take baby steps, walking your feet forward into forward fold. Let the upper body hang. Let's take for a few breaths here. Now, forward fold is a good stretch for the backs of your legs, for your hamstrings. And always know that you can manipulate this pose to get that comfortable stretch. So that might mean shifting your weight forward into your toes, or more into the heels. That might mean bending the knees a little bit more, or bending the knees a little bit less. It might mean letting your upper body really just hang forward, dropping the chin to the chest, looking through your legs to the wall behind you. Or it might mean letting the upper body stay a little bit farther away from the ground. Just because you can touch the ground or you can drop all the way down doesn't mean that you need to, have to, should to, need to, have to, or should. You take the pose that feels the best for you. So notice where you can find a comfortable stretch in your hamstrings. Let's take 2 breaths here. Okay, and then let's all meet in forward fold. So in this forward fold, I'd like you to have a soft bend in your knees, not a deep bend, just a tiny little bend. And the weight of your body is backing your heels. You can wiggle your toes. Inhale as you lift up halfway, lengthen your spine, crown of the head forward, tailbone back. Exhale as you fold forward again. Now really push the heels into the ground and inhale, rise all the way up. Reach your fingertips to the sky. Maybe add a bit of a back bend at the top. And then slowly bring your hands through to your heart. Take a deep breath into Tadasana, mountain pose. Okay. All right, so we're going to do a few half sun salutations and then move through some full sun salutations. And most of you, I think, have heard me say this a bunch of times, but in a hamstring sequence, it is worth repeating. When you are lifting and lowering in and out of forward fold, your hamstrings should be contracting and working. They should be doing the work of lifting and lowering your upper body. If they are not doing the work, your lower back is doing the work, and your lower back really isn't equipped to do that work, and you're asking your lower back to do more work than it was sort of made to do, right? So your hamstrings should be doing that work. So when you are lowering and when you are lifting, you are actively pushing heels into the ground. Your heels aren't just resting on the ground. They are pushing into the ground. Like when we were in that leg lift, you were pushing down into the ground with the arm. You weren't just sort of resting there, right? There's a big difference. So I want work through the back of the legs. And this is all to protect your lower back. This is why this is so important. So hamstrings are going to work as you transition, and you know that that's happening if you have the weight of your body back in your heels. You can wiggle your toes, soft bend in the knees. All of that should be happening. Okay. All right, so let's get to it. So push the heels down, stand up tall, relax the shoulders, soften the shoulders, the arms, the hands, the fingers. Take a breath here in Tadasana. Okay, root down through the heels and inhale as you reach up with the fingertips, maybe even looking up. Exhale, hinge at the hips. Keep the back flat as you hinge forward. Make sure the hamstrings do the work. Inhale as you lift halfway up, lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold forward, round through the upper body. Push the heels down. Inhale, rise all the way up. Fingertips to the sky. Maybe add the back bend. We're going to do a few more like that. So exhale, hinge at the hips, soft bend in the knees, weight in the heels, able to wiggle the toes. Inhale, lift up halfway, lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold forward. Push the heels down, inhale, rise. Legs do the work. Really push heels into the mat. Let's do one more. Exhale, fold forward, hinge at the hips. Uttanasana. Inhale, lift up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold Uttanasana. Push the heels down, inhale, rise all the way up, fingertips to the sky. We're gonna keep going. Exhale, hinge at the hips, fold forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, lift up halfway, lengthen the spine. Exhale, step the right foot back, all the way back in a runner's lunge. We're gonna pause here for a few breaths. Okay, so here it's like each foot is in its own lane of traffic. It's not like a tightrope. So each foot is in its own lane of traffic. Your feet look more like railroad tracks than a tightrope. Okay, all 10 toes forward, grounding through that left heel, able to wiggle the left toes. But the right toes are pushing down and right heel is reaching back. I want you to really lengthen the back of your right leg. So instead of letting the right knee sag down towards the ground and bending the right knee, can you straighten your right knee? Can you lift your right thigh away from the mat and reach the right heel back towards the wall behind you? Take a deep breath here, runner's lunge. Inhale, exhale, step back, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Take your time. Feet are hip distance apart, all 10 toes pointing forward. Spread your fingers wide and inhale, shift forward, plank pose like the top part of a push-up. Now, like in Tadasana with your feet, here you are pushing your hands into the ground. Your hands are not simply touching the ground, resting on the ground. They're pushing, they're active, they're being forceful. So feel that work in your chest. That's the same principle I want you to take for your hamstrings in your legs. Okay, one more breath here, plank pose. And then inhale, shift forward. Exhale, slowly lower, maybe dropping to your knees first, maybe staying on the toes, your call. We're gonna take a back bend here, bring the tops of the feet down onto the ground. With the hands under the shoulders, maybe even slide them back a little bit more. Push the hands into the ground and inhale, lift up any amount that feels good for you. Relax the shoulders, open through the chest, inhale, exhale, fold forward, inhale, exhale, downward facing dog. Passing through either tabletop or plank. Okay, from downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana, slowly pick up the right foot, reach the right heel back. Inhale. Exhale as you bend the right knee, draw it in towards your belly, and slowly, quietly, thoughtfully place your right foot in between your hands, taking as many steps as you need to get it there. Maybe you bring your hands onto blocks. All right. Now each foot is in its own lane of traffic, more like railroad tracks, less like a tightrope. Deeply bending the right knee, right heel pushing down, but able to wiggle the left toes. Able to wiggle the right toes. But the left toes are pushing down, left heel is reaching back. Instead of letting the left knee sag and bend, can you straighten the left knee? Can you lift your left thigh away from the mat and reach your left heel back towards the wall behind you? Take a deep breath. Inhale. Exhale, step forward, forward fold, Uttanasana, rounding through the upper body. Inhale, lift up halfway, lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold forward. Push the heels down. Inhale, rise all the way up. Fingertips to the sky. Root the heels down to reach the fingers up. We're going to do that again. Exhale, fold forward, hinge at the hips. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, step the left foot back, all the way back. Runner's lunge. Really reach that left heel back. That right heel down. Lengthen the spine. Stay for one moment here. Inhale, exhale, downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana, take your time. All right, inhale, shift forward, plank pose. Now you know that for plank, you can stay on your toes or you can always drop to your knees. Maybe you just drop to the knees for the transition, whatever you need. Again, this is strength training. So when we're in plank, when we're doing these chaturangas, this is more in line with strength training. So effortful, takes work, takes force, takes thought, but is not painful, is not sharp or shooting, does not make you wince or make a face. Maybe it makes you shake. I can feel myself shaking. That's okay. But nothing more than that. Take a breath. And then inhale, shift forward. Exhale, slowly lower. Tops of the feet come down onto the ground. Hands under the shoulders. Maybe slide them back a little bit. And inhale, take your back bend. Pull the heart forward. Drop the shoulders down and back. Exhale as you lower your chest. Inhale. Exhale, downward facing dog. All right. Now from down dog, slowly pick up the left foot. Reach the left heel back. Inhale. Exhale, bend the left knee. Draw it in towards your chest and quietly and slowly place the left foot down in between the hands. All right, runner's lunge. So again, each foot in its own lane of traffic. Left heel pushes down, right heel reaches back. Lengthen the spine. Take a breath. Inhale. Exhale, step forward, forward fold, Uttanasana, round through the upper body. Inhale, lift up halfway, lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold forward. Push the heels down, inhale, rise all the way up. Make sure the hamstrings do the work as you lift. We're gonna come right into standing poses. Exhale, fold forward, hinge at the hips. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, step the right foot back, all the way back. We're pausing in this runner's lunge again. And again, if you've got blocks, I would have them close by again. Now for these standing poses, we're probably gonna use them if you've got them. All right, so we're taking a little bit of a shorter stance than you typically would. So if you stepped your right foot all the way back as far as it can go, hop it forward one little hop, maybe just 6 inches or so. All right, and we're gonna allow the right knee to bend this time because the intention is different. Push the left heel into the ground and inhale, slowly rise to crescent lunge. All right, now in crescent lunge, it is again, like each foot is in its own lane of traffic. I often see students feeling very wobbly in this pose, and I look at their feet and it's like their feet are on a tightrope. So that's gonna make you feel wobbly. And maybe you're like, well, my feet are each in their own lane of traffic and I still feel wobbly. Widen it a little bit more. Maybe walk the right foot to the right or the left foot to the left. A wider stance is gonna make you feel more stable, but I wouldn't go much wider than hip distance. Don't have, your feet at mat distance apart. Okay. All right, so now I want us to focus on stretching through the hip flexor. So we're gonna lift the right heel, bend the right knee, tuck the tailbone to feel that opening through the front of the right hip. And then if it's comfortable, maybe the arms float up and the shoulders relax. Let's take about 2 breaths here. Okay, and now slowly bring your hands to your hips. We're gonna take a balance pose. So look at something on the floor, maybe something about a foot away in front of your left toes, a foot forward of your left toes. Excuse me. Lock your eyes on a fixed spot and slowly start to shift your weight into the left foot. So the right foot might take some baby steps, hopping forward, and then just allow it to lift and float up. Now, just like before, it might float just an inch or two off the ground, or it might lift up to the height of the hip. Again, this is more about flexibility than it is about strength, even though it is a strengthening exercise. So we are currently stretching and strengthening your left hamstring, more so strengthening left hamstring and left glute medius. So the left leg should be feeling a lot happening. You should be able to wiggle your left toes. Make sure it's in the hamstring if the weight is in the heel. Reaching back through that right heel, flexing the foot. Stay for one more breath. And then slowly bend the left knee, let the right foot touch down towards the back of the mat. So again, left leg should have been feeling a lot of work, like it was feeling tired and fatigued. That's what we wanted. All right, now this right foot, we're gonna pivot the right foot. We're taking a warrior one stance. So typically it is like your heels are on a tightrope, but that isn't really practical for most bodies. So I would say it's like each heel is still in its own lane of traffic. The right toes are going to be hooked in. Right heel is completely down on the ground. Heel outside edge of the foot, pinky toe side of the foot. Left knee is bent. Draw the hips forward. Draw the right hip forward. Square your hips forward towards the top of your mat, and then allow your arms to float up. Relax the shoulders down. Make sure the ribs aren't poking forward. Draw them in. Bring the spine to neutral. Now keep grounding through both heels. Push your heels into the ground. Push your right heel down and back as you draw the right hip forward. Let's take 2 breaths here. Okay, now slowly bring your hands to your hips. Push your left heel firmly into the ground to straighten that left leg. Okay, now both legs are going to remain straight throughout this exercise, or throughout this pose, I should say. And we're going to square the hips, draw the right hip forward and the left hip back. Imagine that your belly button was like a flashlight or a laser pointer. It would be pointing straight forward, not over to the right. Okay, we're going to have the hands at the hips. Legs are straight. Inhale as you reach the crown of the head up. Exhale as you fold forward. Now hinging at your hips, you're keeping your back flat, you're keeping your legs straight. Now you might just stop about halfway and bring your hands down onto blocks or down onto your shin or down onto your mat. Now, some version of pyramid pose is where you'll end up and where you'll be feeling a stretch in the back of the left leg. We're getting into the hamstrings pretty deeply here. Now, you might stay sort of at this halfway point. You might keep reaching the crown of your head forward and look at your left big toe, keeping your spine more or less parallel with your mat or with the floor. Or if it's comfortable to deepen the stretch, not only in the back of your left thigh, but along the back side of your torso, you might round your upper body, draw your chin to your chest, drop your head, look back towards your right big toe. Pyramid pose, Parsvattanasana. Either way, I want you to push both heels into the ground. And as you're pushing your heels into the ground, continue to square your hips. Right hip forward, left hip back. Let's take 2 breaths here. Pyramid pose, Parsvattanasana. Okay. Now, if you're rounding forward, bring your hands onto either your shin or your blocks or the mat to lift your spine up about halfway, so you're looking towards your left big toe. Slowly bend the left knee, deeply bending that left knee again. Push the heels into the floor, inhale, rise for one more warrior one for just a breath. Take 1 big breath here. Inhale. Exhale, bring the hands down, step back into downward facing dog. Take 3 to 5 breaths to transition however you'd like before we switch sides. All right, from downward facing dog, deeply bend your knees. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, travel forward. Come forward into forward fold, Uttanasana. We're gonna come right into the second side from here. So inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, step the left foot back, all the way back. All right. Okay, so again, each foot in its own lane of traffic, but we're taking a little bit of a shorter stance. So you're gonna hop that left foot forward, maybe just 6 inches or so. Firmly push through the right heel and bend the left knee a little bit. Inhale, slowly rise, crescent lunge. A little bit of a short stance crescent lunge. So the emphasis here is not the hamstring, it's the hip flexor, So left heel lifts up away from the floor. So then you'll feel a stretch in your foot. That's a good one too. Bend your left knee, tuck the tailbone. Feel the opening in the front of the left hip. Keep deeply bending the right knee, pushing right heel down. Right hamstring might feel like it's working. That's okay. And again, if you're feeling a little wobbly, like I think I am a little bit today, I'm gonna walk my right foot a little bit over to the right, okay? And arms might reach up, but you're gonna let your shoulders relax. You're gonna focus on opening through your hip flexor for 2 more breaths, crescent lunge. Okay, and then slowly bring your hands to your hips. Fix your eyes on a dristi. Pick a fixed spot, something that won't look at. We're coming into warrior 3. Shift your weight into your right foot. So the left foot might take some baby steps, walking forward, coming up to the tip of the big toe, and then letting it float over the ground. It might hover just an inch or two. It might lift way up. All right, but your right leg should be able to wiggle your right toes. Right hamstring is working, right glute med is working. This right thigh should feel like it is strengthening, like you're building tension, but not in a way that is painful. All right, now you're gonna reach your left heel back, point your toes down to the ground, flex the foot. Whatever you're doing with your arms, relax your shoulders, soften throat, neck, and jaw. Keep lengthening the spine. Squaring the hips, drop your left hip a little bit more towards the floor. Take another breath here. And then slowly bend the right knee, let the left foot touch down towards the back of the mat, crescent lunge for just a moment. All right, and now we're gonna pivot the left foot, ground that left foot. Again, traditionally it's like your heels are on a tightrope, but I don't think that works for most people. So each heel like it's in its own lane of traffic. Back to sort of railroad tracks. Left toe still pointing a little bit forward and to the left. Bend the right knee, reach the fingertips up. Soften the shoulders, check in with your ribs. Now you might still feel something from in the front of your left hip, in your left hip flexor. I want you to ground through the outside edge of the left heel, pinky toe side of that foot. Feel something maybe through the outside of the calf, outside of the ankle. Squaring the hips, bending the right knee, sending the right heel down. One more breath. All right, and then slowly bring the hands to the hips. Push the right heel into the ground to straighten the right leg. Now both legs will remain straight. Square the hips. Now this is how we really get into the hamstring. 1, with the legs straight, and 2, squaring the hips, because if your belly button points too far over to the left, your hamstring is not stretching. We want your right hip and your right heel to be like they're being pulled away from each other. So the right hip has to go back as the right heel stays forward, okay? Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Keep the back flat, hinge at your hips like you're shortening your right hip flexor. Now bringing your hands maybe onto blocks, shin, or the mat. You might keep the back flat, reaching the crown of the head forward, spine parallel to the floor. And you might look at your right big toe. You should feel a stretch in the back of your right thigh, even with your spine only lowered halfway. This is usually where I like to stay. But if you're feeling like you need more, not just in the leg, but also in your back, you might drop your torso, chin to the chest, drop your head so you're looking back towards your left big toe. You do what feels good. Take your version of pyramid pose, Parsvottanasana. Keep grounding through both heels. Keep squaring your hips. Right hip back, left hip forward. Feel that length in the right leg. Pyramid pose, 2 more breaths. All right. Now bring your hands onto something to slowly lift your torso up just halfway. So if you're already there, just stay there. So it's like you're looking towards your right big toe. Deeply bend your right knee. Push firmly through the right heel and inhale, slowly rise for 1 more warrior 1. Just take a breath here. And then inhale. Exhale, down dog. Plant the hands. Step back. Take 3 to 5 breaths to transition however you like. Okay, now we're all going to be in tabletop. We're all going to come back into tabletop. And we're going to be kneeling on our left knee for a little bit. So maybe you want to pad your left knee. Okay, but we're going to start in tabletop. Okay, now similar to before, we're going to lengthen, I'll get these out of the way. We're going to lengthen the right leg, like the right side of your body is in plank, toes hooked under, heel reaching back. Now, left hand, left knee, and then, or it's like they're on a tightrope, and then you're gonna drop the inside edge of the right foot. You might have to slide it back. So it's like these 3 things are in one line. Left knee is gonna stay where it's at, but pivot at the knee so that the shin moves at a diagonal, top of the left foot down in the ground. Push the top of your left foot down, push your left toenails down. Okay, inhale. Exhale as you reach right fingertips up toward the sky, again coming back to this sort of half modified plank thing. Okay, so we want to make sure we're not shrugging in the left shoulder, so lift up and out. We want to make sure that we're not letting the ribs pop forward, so draw them in. Also, we want to make sure that we're not shining the belly button up towards the sky or the floor. Hips are stacked and square. All right. Now, keep reaching that right heel back, crown of the head forward, and then slowly lift that right leg up. Hand can stay at the hip or arm can reach up. We're going to flex the right foot. So again, like that ankle is like a right angle. Push the top of your left foot down into the ground. Okay, so outside of the thigh and glute med working hard. Not necessarily the hamstrings, but hey, we're here, let's do it. So we're gonna work here a little bit more. So keeping that leg long, keeping that foot flexed, slowly let that right leg lower so it taps or hovers over the ground, and slowly bring it back up. We're gonna do about 4 more. Slowly let it lower, hover or tap. Bring it back up, about 3 more, moving slow and controlled. Keep spreading your left fingers, pushing your left hand down. Checking in with your spine, we want your torso staying still. We want just the right leg moving. Let's do 1 more. Everything else stays still as you're moving that right leg. Now, right leg is up there. Hold it for a breath. And then slowly let the right leg lower. Let the right hand lower. Return back to tabletop. Roll out your wrists, roll out your hips, whatever you need. Okay, now we're gonna keep going, working that right leg. So again, keep maybe that padding under your left knee. If your wrists really start to bother you here, especially as we're here, if you've got a stack of books, even if you don't have yoga blocks, you can let your forearms come onto the yoga blocks. But if you do that, I know I'm in sort of a baggy shirt, so you maybe can't see very well, but the tendency, when people tend to lower down here, they end up myself included, they end up dropping their ribs. Next thing you know, they're arching their back, lower back is vulnerable, core is not working, belly button is pointing towards the thighs, which is not what we want. So just really be aware, if you're taking that option, that you've got to check in with your spine a little bit more. All right, so from tabletop, hands under shoulders, knees under hips, top of the left foot down. We're going to lengthen that right leg back again, like the right side of your body is in plank. Keeping the hips level, allow this right leg to lift up. Now, hips need to stay level. Right hip is either going to want to hike up or drop way down. I even like to kind of bring my left hand to my lower back, make sure it feels level, like you could rest a teacup on your lower back and it wouldn't slide off over to the right or the left. All right, now really reach that right heel back, crown of the head forward, push the hands down, lift the chest, and then inhale. Exhale, bend your right knee like you're drawing your heel towards your backside. Inhale, lengthen the leg. Exhale, bend the knee. We're gonna do a few more. Inhale, lengthen the leg. Exhale, bend. All right, now keep checking in. Ribs are not sagging. Hips remain level. If there was a teacup on your lower back, it wouldn't slide off to the right or to the left. Let's do 3 more of these hamstring curls. Here we are working our hamstrings. These are hamstring curls, which maybe you've seen in the gym. There's a lot of exercises where you could do this, but doing this just with body weight. Now, next time you bend your right knee, we're gonna keep the right knee bent, like it's bent at a right angle, bottom of the foot facing the ceiling. This is a small movement. We're putting footprints on the ceiling, so we're gonna pulse, lift lower, up, 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 up. Now it's a small movement. You're just moving this right leg maybe just a few inches. Make sure that the ribs are not sagging, the hips remain level, the movement is small, and the movement is just in your right leg. The torso does not move here. Arms do not move. We're gonna stay 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Got one more movement. We're gonna lengthen that leg. It's like your right toes are resting on a coffee table or a really low ottoman. You're gonna let that right leg draw over to the right and then over to the left, crossing the body. Like it's sliding along a low coffee table all the way over to the right, all the way over to the left. Core stays still, left thigh, left leg stays still. The more the rest of your body moves here, the less your legs are working. So maintain stillness everywhere but the right leg. Let's do one more, just like this. And then once you bring that leg back, slowly let that right knee lower down. Take a breath, take a break. Roll out your wrist, take a stretch for your left side. So in some of those movements, we were working the right leg. In some of those movements, we were working the left leg. Even though the left leg wasn't doing anything really, it was working hard to stabilize all that movement. So if through these, you were letting everything else move, that left leg wouldn't feel that work. Your left leg probably right around here was feeling like it was working because it was working really hard to stop everything from just swaying and releasing and moving. So even though it was staying still, it was working hard. All right, we have to do the second side. Okay, so we're actually gonna start, we're gonna start, I'm gonna flip around, but you can stay where you're at. And if you're using any padding, now you're gonna pad your right knee. We're gonna start with that sort of gait variation. So from tabletop, we just have to do all this on the second side and then we're stretching. We're in the sort of the right around the corner is the home stretch. Okay, so from tabletop, you're gonna lengthen your left leg and then roll to the inside edge of the foot. Right hand, right knee, left foot are all like they're on one tightrope. Inhale, exhale, reach left fingertips to the sky. Okay, so top of the right foot come down. Excuse me, I skipped a cue. Right shin is gonna pivot out, so the top of the right foot is resting on the ground, but it's like it's pointing towards the back right corner of your mat. Okay, so push your right toenails down, push the top of your right shin down into the ground, push right hand down, lift up and out of the armpit. Make sure that you're not pushing your ribs forward. Spine is in neutral. And then keep your eyes on a fixed spot, let the left foot slowly lift up. Flex the foot like you're pointing your toes back towards your face, flexing the foot, ankle is engaged. Now, make sure that the hip isn't dropping down or lifting. Hips are stacked, belly button square forward. And you're gonna keep that left leg long and you're gonna lower, let it tap or hover over the ground, pick it back up, let it lower down, tap or hover over the ground, pick it back up. We're gonna do a few more. Now keep that leg long. Again, left hand can reach, left hand can be at the hip. Well, make sure you're feeling this through the outside of your left leg. The part of the leg that's facing the ceiling. So your glute med, and again, outer thigh. That's where we want to feel that work. We're not really getting into the hamstrings right now. even though this is a hamstring sequence. We're gonna do about 2 more just like this, getting into the back of the thigh. I'm sorry, the side of the thigh. I'm thinking hamstrings are the back of the thigh. Okay, let's do 1 more. Lift it up, hold it, keep that flex of the foot, push the heel back, toes towards your face, take a breath. And then slowly return the hand, the foot, the knee, let yourself rest. Roll the wrist around, whatever you need to do. I'm gonna turn back around. And I think I'm gonna use my blocks this time around, give my wrists a break. This is really quite a bit on your wrists. All right. All right, so back down in tabletop again, sort of at the home stretch here. All right, so if you're taking this option with me, dropping down to your forearms, no, you can, and I would not suggest, and I'll show you why, I would not suggest dropping all the way down to your forearms, because then I can almost guarantee, without looking at you, that you are dropping your ribs. I would put money on it, even without seeing you, or even knowing who you are, just anybody. I think anybody would end up here with their lower back at risk and their core not at all engaged. So I would lean on something that you've got. All right, so spine in neutral. We're gonna lengthen the left leg back, and we're gonna lift that left leg up. Hips are level, again, make sure that it's like you're resting a teacup on your lower back and it wouldn't slide off to the right or the left. Spine is long, shoulders away from the ears, but arms pushing down into the ground. Now, inhale, exhale, bend your left knee, do the hamstring curl. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, bend. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, bend. Now keep checking in. If you're feeling anything in your torso, it is your abs, it is your chest, it is in your arms. It's in the front side of your body, not your back. You should not feel anything that we are doing here in your back, in your low back, anything. Your glutes, yes. Your legs, yes. But no more in the back than just the glutes. Let's do 1 more like this. And then the next time you bend your knee, you're gonna keep your knee bent, bottom of the foot facing the ceiling, left knee bent at a right angle. Small footprints on the ceiling, so lift, 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 sort of a pulse. It's a small movement. You're only moving that left leg. Left leg is the only thing that's moving, and it's only moving a little bit. Check in with your ribs. Check in with your pelvis. Check in with your lower back. Stay with it. Working through the glutes and hamstrings for 4, 3, 2, 1. Last one. Lengthen that left leg. Again, check in. Tuck the tailbone. Lift up and out of the armpits. Keep that left leg long. Let it go all the way over to the left, all the way over to the right. As if it's sliding, your left toes are sliding along a low coffee table or a low ottoman. They stay at the same height, just moving over right and left. Feel that work probably now in your right leg. Right leg's gonna stay still. It's gonna stabilize. It's gonna work to keep this action going. Do 1 more, just like this. You got it. And then let that left knee come down onto the ground. Take a break. All right, give yourself another breath or 2. And we're gonna come to a seat. Okay, we're gonna take a seat for just a moment. I'm gonna sit on something. You can sit on something as long as it's thin. How do I wanna? As long as it is thin. I would prefer you to only sit on a towel, a blanket, or a really thin pillow. Like a bolster or a block is generally too thick. Okay, now we're gonna come into a hamstring stretch. So we were just working our hamstrings, right? All these spaces were tightening and working and feeling fatigued and tired and maybe shaking and just wanting a break. Now they're gonna lengthen and stretch, and this is where we restore mobility, range of motion, flexibility, things like that. Okay, so you're gonna sit with both legs long in front of you. I like feet together. They could be hip distance if that feels better for you. You're gonna make sure that your feet aren't relaxed. For a moment, just totally relax your legs. Notice that your feet turn out, so your feet sort of like make the letter V. That's not horrible, but it's not ideal for your knees, because if your hips are forward but your toes are turned out, it means there's a twist happening in your knee. Your knee doesn't really like that. So we're gonna make sure to keep the feet flexed, toes reaching up towards the sky. It doesn't need to be your strongest, most forceful flex, just a little something, just a little some engagement. All right, you're gonna keep your legs long, feet flexed, reach the crown of the head up to the sky. Inhale. Exhale as you fold forward like you're reaching your heart towards your feet. Heart towards your feet. So you're not only reaching down towards the floor, you're reaching forward and down, like you're pulling your heart forward. Now again, listen to the stretch that you're feeling. This should be comfortable. It should not make you wince, make a face, or think, ow. This is when we're getting into a stretch that should be comfortable and feel productive and beneficial. So maybe that means keeping your back flat, reaching the crown of your head up, relaxing your shoulders, and looking towards your feet. Maybe that means dropping your chin to your chest, rounding through your upper body, and just dropping everything as if you're reaching your nose towards your knees. This is Paschimottanasana, our seated forward bend. The intention is a comfortable stretch to the back sides of the legs, through the whole back side of the body. Maybe you just keep your hands on your mat, maybe you grab onto your feet, but try to release any unnecessary tension. So soften into this stretch. We'll stay here for a few more breaths. Let's take 3 more breaths here. And then slide your hands closer towards your hips. Push your hands into the ground. Use the strength of your upper body as you inhale and lift up, pushing your hands into the ground to lift your upper body back upright. Okay. And then you can move your legs in any way that feels good. I always like a few ankle circles, or sort of just moving things around. All right, we're going to come down onto our backs. So you can make your way down onto your back. I'm actually going to stay upright, but you can come down onto your back. And make your way down onto your back in a comfortable position, maybe knees bent, feet flat. Taking just a few moments to notice what it feels like to bring your spine back to neutral after being in that forward fold. That last stretch was, again, certainly a hamstring stretch, but also a spinal stretch, stretching through the back side of your spine. So notice what it feels to be like flat on your back in a neutral spine. One more breath. Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe out, hug your knees in towards your chest. Maybe you rock from side to side. Trace circles with your knees, maybe a few more pointing and flexing and ankle circles of your feet. Maybe you take happy baby. Maybe in happy baby, you lengthen one leg and then switch, getting into your hamstrings. Stay for about 3 more breaths, wherever feels comfortable. And then get settled into Shavasana. Find your pose, find your final relaxation. Maybe that means lengthening the legs, maybe that means keeping knees bent. But finding a position where the backside of your body can truly rest. And as you allow that rest to happen on the backside of the body, let it permeate not just the backside of the body as it feels supported by the mat and the ground and the earth, but allow that relaxation to fill your whole body. The backside, the front side, the left side, the right side, the top, the bottom. Let it fill not just the outside, but also the inside. Can you soften your breath? Can you soften all of your internal thoughts? Creating a gentle softness, not just on the outside, but also on the inside. slowly deepen your breath. And as you deepen your breath, create soft and subtle movements throughout your body. Rock your head side to side. Run your thumbs over the rest of your fingers as you wiggle your toes. Roll wrists and ankles. Move arms and legs. And maybe take a full body stretch, reaching fingertips and toes in opposite directions. Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe out, hug your knees into your chest. And slowly roll over onto either side in a tucked fetal position. Keeping your eyes closed and using the strength of both arms, push down into the ground, come up to a comfortable seat. And take a moment here to thank yourself for making it to your mat today. Maybe reflect on your intention. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my life contribute in some way to the happiness and freedom for all. Now let's join our hands together in front of the heart in Anjali Mudra. To seal our practice, we'll chant the sound of Om one time. Om is said to be the oldest and most sacred mantra. It exists in all living things and therefore unites all living things together. So again, we will chant the sound of Om just one time. Let's start with a deep and clearing breath. Inhale for Om. The light or the good in me acknowledges, respects, and bows to the light or the good in you. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for participating and trying your best and doing your best work. I appreciate it greatly. Again, my name is Lauren, and this was a slow flow yoga practice focusing on hamstrings with quite a bit of work for the glute medius in there as well, but that's helpful. So again, a balance of strengthening and stretching, and hopefully you can feel that difference of what those muscles feel like when they're doing each thing, because they're very different. Oftentimes beginning students kind of confuse those two or think that they're the same, but they're really opposite. So really kind of feel that in your own body and keep taking care of your body, keep moving around, getting 8 hours of rest, drinking water, all of those things. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye.